Hey guys, I'm Will Curryluck. I'm the CEO and founder of Eluktronics. Thank you for coming today, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you down, especially we just got to see you in CES, and that was a good trip. But so today we're here with the Mac 17, and we also brought in all the competing laptops of all thin and light categories. So we're hoping to see what we're going to see today is exactly. I haven't seen it yet either. So Stephen,
yeah, we've got like what 5, 6 laptops, a lot of them, and we're ending with the Mac 17. Because when we did the Max, the Mag 15, everybody was asking for when we're going to have a 17 option available.
Yeah, and the Mag 15 is the closest you're going to get to the Mag 17. So it is going to have a membrane keyboard. It is still the thinnest and lightest 17.3-inch laptop on the market as of right now. It does have a 91 watt-hour battery, which is larger than everything else that you're going to see out there, except for the Aero. But at the same time, that is a Max Q, and we're using a Max P with the 115 watt. We also have our Electro Boost, which is going to kick the CPU up almost to 90 watts, depending on how the thermals are. It's subject to temperatures, but it is going to give some of the best results that you're going to find, and I guess we'll find out today how that pairs.
You'll see some good GPU performance boosts as well there for the 2060 and even the 1660 Ti model that you...
Exactly, and I think the 2060 truly can come close to the 2070, if not exceed it, like Stephen had said previously. And there is going to be some things that were coming out this year that I think is going to give some good competition. And we are also focusing on price. And if you guys do buy a system from us, we do ask that you please post a review, because word of mouth is the way that we're coming out right now. That's the best way to focus on cost for you and also come out with a great product.
Yeah, I've shot some footage also of the operation here. It's a very nice, neat, tidy shop they have here. Doing upgrades. And of course, one specialization they do is the liquid metal repasting customization options they have.
True. You can customize this exactly to your liking on our website. Another thing that we do have is we're trying to decide. I know a lot of people are saying that they would rather have no logo, or if you'd rather have an illuminated logo. I, of course, like the illuminated logo, but if you guys prefer no logo, it's not a problem with me either. So leave comments in Stephen's channel and let us know, and you'll see that in the next iteration.
Right, thanks. So stay tuned, and we'll do the unboxings next, and then followed by the some thermal tests of the laptops in hand.
Yeah.
Eluktronics are located in Delaware, and the first thing that struck me was the cleanliness of their setup. Everything was well organized from their receiving department to their shipping department. Many of their staff were doing RAM and SSD upgrades, plus also doing repastes for customized builds. Each laptop had its own ticket, and everything was kept well separated to prevent mix-ups, and each station had good overhead lighting, making for a good working environment. In the Smackdown we have the Aero 17, the Asus Zephyrus S GX701, the Max 17, the Alienware M17, the MSI GS75 Stealth, and the Razer Blade Pro 17. And we also threw in the Max 15. So here are the specs of all the competing 17-inch laptops. They all have the i7-9758 6-core CPU. Only one has the RTX 2070 Max P, that's the Asus Zephyrus S. The rest have the RTX 2070 Max Q, some 80 watts, some 90 watts. Storage, they all generally have around about 512GB SSD, so although the Alienware M17 has them in RAID 0. All of them have 16GB of RAM, apart from the MSI GS75 Stealth that has 32GB, and all of them have 144Hz 1080p panels, apart from the Aero 17, which is a 4K panel. Battery life-wise, the Aero has the largest 94 watt-hour battery, but mostly around about 71 to 80 watt-hours. Pricing-wise, they're all over $2,000, with the Razer Blade 17 Pro taking the crown at $2,500.
So we saved the best to last, the Eluktronics Max 17. Now they've got an introductory offer on their website. You can for like $14.99. You get this all. You get the headset, HDMI cable. You get a mouse, which actually is like a Razer mouse. I've got the same mouse, and it's like it's fantastic. And of course, a very good mouse pad. Now separately, these are about $130, so you get these thrown in for free. And the Max 17 starts at $13.99. That's with a trial of Windows 10 Home, and of course then you can if you want to buy your own $15 key, you can do. Or, you know, for $14.99, it starts with the 1660 Ti. Now, for an extra $100, you can get the 2060, and for an extra $300 on that, then you get the 2070 Max P. Now, all laptops come with their ElectroBoost software, which will increase clock rates and wattages to the CPU and the GPU to max out the performance. And if you haven't seen how that performs on my Mech 17, you know, so make sure you click up here, because that was fantastic. It made that 2060 perform like a 2070 Max P or a 2080 Max Q. And you know, we're saving a lot of money here compared to the like the Alienwares and everything else. They're all above $2,000, aren't they? We're saving a lot of cash here. So the objective here is, of course, I'll show you what it's like inside the box, but also what it's going to be like, you know, in terms of performance and raw numbers and also thermals. So let's have a quick look. Now, it has of course, a 17-inch display, 144 Hertz. It's got two M.2 slots. The pre-configured model comes with a nice, generous 1 terabyte of PCI Express. Now, I understand that the SSDs are made by Crucial, so the quality sticks. It's got 16 gigabytes of RAM running on dual channel, of course. And you can, you know, when you configure it, you can even configure it, of course, with liquid metal, which you're not going to be able to do from any of the Amazon buys. You know, so you can always get that, which is going to be nice. That's a nice, good packaging, I think. You know, no plain box here, so you can see what you're getting. Now, the Mag 15 was probably one of the hottest selling laptops of 2019, I think. You know, so I think we're all very excited to see how this works. You know, because we're all crying out for a 17-inch laptop, a 17-inch Mag 15, so we now got it, the Max 17. So the power brick, of course, is a 230-watt brick, which is nice. That's what you need. And of course, warranty-wise, you can it's default at 1 year, but you can get up to 3 years on their website. Now you'll notice here, you know, it reminds you again like the Razer, doesn't it? You know. Now you can either get it with no logo on like this, or they've got. I'll show you an example here. If the camera picks it up, if you can see it there. Now, typically the logo was painted on it. Now they've got like a series of small holes drilled, high-speed drilling, to make an outline, and the backlight of the panel will show it. A bit more subtle. So the question, you know, would you rather have perhaps a painted logo, no logo at all, or a logo like we have here with the backlight shining through? And I must admit, it does look quite subtle. It's nice. It's not staring you in the face. Now the 15 Max 15 is white, whilst the Max 17 is going to be a blue logo. So let us know in the comments below what you would prefer to have there. But getting back to the design of this, I say it's a nice clean look. I do like that. And of course, as we'll show when we power them all on, you have a light bar like you had on the Mag 15. You do have Thunderbolt 3 on here, and it's certainly pretty light. And looking underneath now, at the moment, it's all magnesium, so that's why it's so light. But the back panel looks, you know, you might mistake it as being plastic, but it's not. It's magnesium. And electronics, if there's a silver model like you got on the Max 15, they're working to blend it all in together there, so it all looks uniform. But here we've got anodized black lid and anodized black base, and it does look nice and sharp. Big feet at the back and some nice air intakes, and of course, cooling wise, we do have 2 side heat sinks as well as 2 at the back. So let's look at its ports. So we've got them all stacked up here like a huge sandwich. So we have the Razer at the bottom, and we have the MSI GS75 at the next, followed by the Aero 17, the Alienware M17, the Asus GX701, and finally at the top we have the Eluktronics Max 17. So we've got the ports here. We do have a micro SD card slot on the Max 17, followed by 2 USB 3.1 Type A ports and an air vent. And of course, you know, various configurations on the other laptops will have display options like the HDMIs, but as we'll see shortly, the Max 17 has those things at the back. Now looking at the back, so of course the Razer, clean look, no ports. Same with the GS75. No ports for the Aero. It's not until we get to the Alienware that, of course, they have a lot of display ports out with the HDMI, the Alienware graphics amplifier, Thunderbolt display port. The Zephyrus, no ports. Now, the Electronics Max 17 has a Thunderbolt port, HDMI 2.0, the Gigabit Ethernet, and the power jack. So it's good. Of course, the power coming out the side, at the back here, so it doesn't get in the way of your mouse hand. So here on the left-hand side, we see that the Max 17 has a third USB Type A port here on the left with dedicated microphone and headphone jacks. Of course, we've got the air vent as well, of course, and a Kensington lock.
Now looking at the weights, the Razer Blade 17 Pro is the heaviest of the bunch. Actually, the only 17-inch laptop that comes closer to Max 17 is the GS75, but the Max 17 is below £5, and that has a whopping 91 watt-hour battery in it. The Max 15 is a welterweight at under £4. That's pretty good, isn't it?
So we have all 6 17-inch laptops plus the Max 15 running Ada 64. We'll measure the temperature of the CPU and the GPU and also the chassis temperatures.
So we've been running Ada 64 stress test for quite some time now. So let's look at the Razer 17 Pro. Center of the keyboard is pretty cool in the mid-30s. You can see cool air being brought in through the keyboard there, so that's nice. And up towards the hinge area, it's a little bit warmer, around about 47 degrees, but where your hands are, it is perfectly fine. So moving on to the Electronics Max 17, you can clearly see cool air being brought through the keyboard. Center of the keyboard is around about 49. Now that is a bit warm, but it's certainly not where your hands are. The actual keyboard deck itself, where it's all blue, is quite nice and cool. So all in all, that's not too bad at all. So now moving on to the Asus GX701. Center of the keyboard, about 42 or so, 44. Again, you can see cool air being brought through the keyboard there with one fan. And of course, where the keyboard itself is there at the front, that's quite nice in the low 30s. So when we go to the Electronics Max 15, it's the same as the Max 17. Two fans clearly seen there, and the center of the keyboard where all the cooling apparatus is in the high 40s. Again, keyboard deck is nice and cool, not bad. So the Alienware M17, no cool air is brought through the keyboard. The main cooling apparatus in the center, of course, is the mid 40s, and you can see where the heat is exhausting there. But the keyboard deck is, high 29, so that's not bad. So now on to the Aero 17. A little bit of cool air is brought in through the left fan there, you can see, but you quite clearly see the cooling apparatus there towards the back, and the keyboard deck, that's pretty cool as well. So we're looking perhaps high 39s type of mark. Finally, we're looking at the MSI GS75 Stealth. This is probably looking at the coolest of the bunch. So very cool chassis, very impressive. Keyboard deck, high 20s, center of the keyboard, perhaps mid 30s. So not bad at all.
So the Max 17, if you hadn't seen the Razer 17 just before, you probably think it's probably similar, and indeed it's a similar design. Nice big trackpad. The keyboard is not a zoned RGB, and of course you get various effects, and it looks quite nice. Now it's a nice smooth and black anodized finish we have here, and of course you've got a button to activate the software, whether you wanted to do the Electro Boost or gaming mode, that type of thing. So let's have in fact what we've got here, we've got the fans, two fans here, so let's have a look and see the temperatures and clock rates. So now Ada 64 has been running at 25 minutes. The clock rate is currently pretty high. It's like 2,700 megahertz, averaging 2,273. And you'll notice that the PL1 and PL2 are both 100 watts, and indeed, of course, we saw that 97 watts peak, and it's now dropped down to about 47 watts. So now the temperatures, of course, when it was pulling 100 watts, reached 97 degrees, but after all this time, we're now at settling around about 85 degrees, so that is perfectly fine. Now the Max 17, we've activated the Electro Boost, so consequently what happens now, the CPU has gone up to about 54 watts, and the clock speed, 2,800, so it's, it certainly helps out a lot. Temperatures rise, of course, but you can configure, of course, with liquid metal, which will help. But still, you know, we're looking at around about 90 degrees there. That's good.
So after stressing the CPU and the GPU for quite some time with AIDA64, I compiled this chart showing what the CPU watts were, the temperature of the CPU was, and the clock rate at the time. And I've compiled it so that the most expensive laptop is at the top and working down. So we've got all these laptops running their turbo modes, and the worst performer actually is the Alienware M17. It got really hot, throttled all the way back to about 1895 megahertz and dropped down to 34 watts. Consequently, you know, at 79 degrees it's fairly cool, but it's not performing very well. And actually the best performer is the Razer Blade Pro. That was holding steady at about 55 watts and 80 degrees, but that does have an undervolt of 100 millivolts and vapor chamber cooling. Now looking at the electronics laptops at the bottom, which also have an undervolt of minus 50 millivolts. So certainly switching from gaming to Electro Boost on the Max 17, we go from 46 watts to 55 watts and a nice extra 400 megahertz in performance. So that is pretty good. And looking at the Max 15, the smaller chassis, 52 watts that was pushing and 83 degrees. Actually was performing very well in a clock rate of 2600 megahertz. So considering that these laptops are much more inexpensive than the other ones, I think that is pretty good. So I also wanted to show what the max CPU watts and the max temperature was. And of course, all the electronics laptops, you know, they pushed high wattage initially, talking 96, 97 watts, and then consequently the temperature at peak was pretty high too. Now this is stock based, of course, liquid metal would help out, but I was quite surprised by the Max 15, the peak temperature there was only 87 degrees. Now conversely, look at the Alienware M17, that was only at 78 watts peak, but it was still 99 degrees, so it throttled all the way down. Of course, the Razer Blade Pro with its vapor chamber cooling and it's a big undervolt. Max watts was 55 and it's steady all the way at 86 degrees peak there. Now on to some benchmarks using the Max Turbo mode on each of the laptops. Cinebench R20 multi-core CPU test, and the Max series, the 15 and the 17, hold the crown here. All generally around about 3,000 points or more. The Aero 17 comes in last. That CPU did throttle down quite a bit there. So very good performance by the Max series. We also tested TimeSpy. The top bar is the CPU score and the bottom bar is the GPU score. Now the Aero 17 did the worst here. Not very good at all. And surprisingly, the Alienware M17 did pretty good. That was the best of the bunch out of the 2070 Max Qs. Looking at the electronics Max series, the 2060 Max P was holding its own against the 90 watt 2070 Max Q laptops. And look at the Max 15. I think with the 2070 Max P, that's a good performance, around about 7,500 GPU points. And that's such a thin and light chassis, isn't it? Just under £4. Also, bear in mind, the Max series are fairly inexpensive compared to the rest. So that's it. I would like to thank Will and the rest of the team at Eluktronics for their time. I do have a Max 17 and a Max 15 in-house, so stay tuned and subscribe for my full review on those. And here's some outtakes which I think you might enjoy.
Made me create a list of what I thought made the best gaming laptops, and I've been working so hard to achieve. I'm wondering how it's going to look. Like, does it look like I'm reading? It does look like I'm reading?
You look a bit rigid.
Okay.
That's what I say. You look a bit like Max Headroom. But you try and look normal.
That's not that easy.
It's not easy, is it? It's fucking hard. Move your head around a bit.
Okay.
You know, blink, gesture with your arms.
Blink. Okay.